street.
And bring your business cards.
That's right, so you can network and everything like that.
Exactly.
But ladies, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We do appreciate it. Well, now over to John.
All right, Trial Tuesday once again. Today we're talking about texting and driving. Despite how dangerous this habit can be, South Carolina is one of the few states that does not have a set law against it yet. Attorney David Aylor, a man who always keeps his hands on 10 and 2 on the roads and in the courtroom, joins us now to tell us why that is. Counsel, let's get right to the meat of this. Texting and driving, numerous studies have shown this is so dangerous, but South Carolina doesn't have that law on the books just yet.
Right. They've attempted to do it in the past, and then there's a new recent bill that came out from Representative Gilliard that is going to again try to make it a traffic violation, if you will, texting while driving. They have multiple offenses, and the first offense is pretty drastic as regards to losing your license for 30 days, and then it goes on from there.
Now, research has shown that South Carolina highways are some of the most dangerous in the nation without even being on the phone. So really, this is an epidemic.
Right. I mean, it's something that you obviously see different states across the United States are putting laws in place, but there are issues related to it. Obviously, we don't have a hands-free law here in South Carolina like other states where you're forced to use your headset. So it's sometimes hard to distinguish between someone making a phone call or answering a phone call as opposed to text messaging or looking something up on the internet, that sort of thing.
Now, there are municipal laws on the books in several municipalities here in the state that have anti-texting and driving legislation in place. How does that relate, and what happens if you get pulled over in one of those towns that have those laws into place or municipal ordinances in place versus a town that doesn't?
Well, essentially, Beaufort's probably the closest one we have here in the Lowcountry, but you're right, there are several that do. And what they do is they write you a municipal ordinance, which would be, a small fine, but it's not going to affect your driver's license. It doesn't have the power to suspend it. It'd be no different than getting like a disorderly conduct or something like that, which wouldn't be on your criminal record. But they can fine you for it. But I think what will happen, though, if this bill goes forward, you're going to see really a pushback from the defense type of things, because obviously if an individual claims that he or she was not texting, they've hired an attorney, particularly if their license is going to be suspended, then it'll be a situation where they're going to have to subpoena the records to be able to show from that phone record that you were texting in and about that time, which is something I will add they do if there's a car wreck where injuries are occurred. They will now actually go back and determine whether or not you were text messaging.
I was going to ask you, how can a police officer know? Because normally when you text, you're texting down here while looking at the road trying to drive at the same time. Nobody's texting up here, while holding the steering wheel. So how are they going to determine that you were doing?
It's such a subjective thing. Obviously, it's completely different than you're wearing your seatbelt, you're not wearing your seatbelt, something they can't even pull you over for. They can only cite you for if you're pulled over. But with the texting thing, I think that is one of the issues. If an individual feels like he or she was not texting and now they're looking at a license suspension as well as a large fine, more than likely they're probably going to hire one of the great criminal defense attorneys here in the Lowcountry and try to fight that, because then you're going to have a logjam within the system, because it's going to take quite amount of time to get those records back from the private cell phone carrier.
Now, some legislation being proposed to get a statewide anti-texting bill in place. Where do you see that going?
It's going to be something that will definitely be discussed within, the committees, but whether it gets out of committees is a different question, because, again, I think there's so many things that go unanswered with that, because, if an individual's getting pulled over for allegedly text messaging and then cited for that, and then it turns out later they weren't, I mean, they've gone through a lot of work there to either get to the point to prove for themselves that they weren't texting, as well as the municipality or the state has gone through a lot of work to try to prove that they had. And that's really the issue, as opposed to like a speeding ticket or running through a stop sign. Those things are obviously a lot more easy to really either prove or disprove. The texting thing really leaves a lot up in the air.
Yeah, why not have that bill in place? Is it because there's so much of that legal red tape?
I think so, because ultimately, similar to like when here in South Carolina, when DNA tests are needed for things related to criminal activity, there's a log jam there in Columbia through SLED because they only have so many people that can do it. If you have people getting pulled over for this new text law, if in fact it did come into place, you'd have so many attorneys, defending these individuals, so their license wouldn't be suspended, and then ultimately that would lead to a lot of subpoenas for those records, which takes so long to get.
Attorney David Aylor, thank you for your time, sir. We do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Great stuff as always. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.